Hey Tooth Engineers, it's Dr. Rob.
And Bioman.
And today we're going to get into dental stem cells. Bioman, I've been seeing a lot of posts recently on LinkedIn where
Our favorite.
Yeah, everyone's favorite. But the thing is, they're posting a lot of things on stem cells being sourced from third molars, wisdom teeth. And they're making it out like it's like the greatest thing ever. It's like the new hope of regenerative medicine. And I think today I just wanted to take the time to just like really lay down the fact and fiction of this topic. So I know you worked with some dental stem cells during your time in your PhD. Could you just lay out what this is?
Yeah, definitely. So, to our tooth engineers and Dr. Rob, dental pulp stem cells is a stem cell that fits in a class of stem cells known as multipotent stem cells. I believe we delved a little bit into this topic where different cells have different potencies, meaning they have this propensity or way of differentiating into multiple cell types. We sort of start from the bottom where the most potent stem cell is our pluripotent or totipotent stem cell, which in the body is a stem cell type that differentiates into almost anything. And as we go kind of up this hierarchy of stem cells, we have lower potency cells in different parts of the body. Dental pulp stem cells or dental stem cells are one of those less potent stem cell types that are multipotent. So as opposed to forming into any stem cell type based on their environment, they're only limited to a few types of mature tissues.
Okay.
So these dental stem cells are one of those multipotent stem cells that are derived from, deciduous teeth and even in adults' teeth that form limited types of phenotypes. So it is true that you can extract these stem cells and differentiate them into limited types of tissues, but in terms of their regenerative potential and scalability, it's quite challenging, especially considering the limited number of cells you can extract from a deciduous tooth at a time.
Yeah. So traditionally, stem cells are MSCs, mesenchymal stem cells. They're sourced from
Also multipotent.
Also multipotent. They are sourced from adipose tissue, fat tissue, and bone marrow. Two biggest sources of stem cells. And generally, they differentiate into three general types of connective tissue. Muscle, bone, and cartilage.
Yep.
Now, when we're sourcing these stem cells from teeth, I guess now they still would be going down a similar connective tissue pathway, right? Kind of like when we compare it to MSCs, but it would be more in the context of tooth tissues, right? So
the environment plays. We're going to need to grab a second mic. I guess we're having some audio issues on my end. And new podcasting room, guys. So we're trying to figure out our little situation here. So we also discussed this in a previous video, but in addition to understanding the potency of these stem cell types, the area in which these stem cells are derived really drives the potency or what ability these stem cells can form into. Yeah. We can add various dopants and growth factors to isolated stem cells, such as in the tooth, extract it in a lab, isolate them, and turn them into their limited phenotypes. But the environment within the body really dictates how that stem cell forms. So let's say we do form, let's say we extract like a dental pulp stem cell and we want to put it around connective tissue. That stem cell, without forming its adult phenotype, will change its phenotype depending on the environment or area you want to graft it on. But to say that works all the time is kind of hard because a lot of these stem cells are very biologically already predisposed to their phenotype based on where they originally were derived from. But they do have this plasticity based on where they reside in. So moving from like your tooth to another area can change its fate, but it will always keep the original. It will always have some inherent initial fate towards its original source.
Right. Right.
So it can work. You can add dopants and alter the way these stem cells differentiate, but it's a bit more of an uphill battle as opposed to cells that have that higher level of potency.
Right.
But those higher level potency cells, of course, like embryonic stem cells or pluripotent stem cells, they're either harder to get or, you have to go through these ethical, hurdles.
Of course. Of course. So let's go back to the topic of dental pulp stem cells. So again, so when people are posting on LinkedIn and they're like, oh, this is the next best thing, it's not entirely true. Can we utilize that to regenerate certain craniofacial / teeth structures? Probably. It will be a good use case for that. But people should not be sensationalizing this to this extent. Because this concept of utilizing stem cells from one part of the body and putting it in another has been around for decades.
That's right.
So it's, again, exciting stuff. And I think wisdom teeth, third molars, or deciduous teeth are great sources of stem cells. But realistically, for a person, not many stem cells can be extracted from one tooth.
Right.
It's very small.
Well, here's the thing too. I mean, these cells that are considered primary cells, they also have this limited capacity to double themselves before they lose their, I would call it, plasticity, fate, and health.
Yeah.
So when we talk about stem cells, these are these highly proliferative, highly plastic, and adaptable cells. But they do have an age and shelf life, meaning that, let's say we take stem cells out of the tooth, and I'm just going to make up a number. There's a million stem cells per tooth. Don't count me on that number. We're just making numbers up. And let's say there's a defect on your bone that requires a billion undifferentiated cells that need to convert into your bone tissue. All right. So we need 1,000 times cells as the original population to graft this bone defect or craniofacial defect. It doesn't matter. As we want to take one tooth and form 1 million cells to 1 billion cells. As those cells will double, the cells will lose their phenotype and ability to convert robustly into that stem cell, the differentiated bone tissue that we want as they age. And so to say that we can take one deciduous tooth and that low cell population and proliferate them onto a bone graft is pretty unrealistic. Even though they can continuously divide, they change and get old and lose their robustness as we want to expand these in a lab.
Yeah. And I guess that gets into the topic of, senescence, right?
Yes.
Aging of cells. And that's a whole different topic. I mean, the thing is, freezing cells, thawing them, passaging them.
That's right. All that damages these cells, too.
Yeah.
I mean, people kind of find these optimal cryopreservation methods, and it does, it works to an extent, but every time you cryopreserve, we use these synthetic chemicals like dimethyl sulfoxide, which are also unhealthy for these cells long term.
Yeah.
Cryopreservation is great to, transfer cells and then bring them in a lab, but it doesn't solve the problem of the effects of doubling time for extracting primary cells and getting them to the scales necessary for large tissue grafting necessary for larger defects.
Of course, yeah. So I mean, but if you're trying to, it's amazingly hard to proliferate these stem cells to an amount that gets us 12 million cells. Right?
Well, 12 million actually isn't a lot. I mean, 12 million is a lot, right?
I'm talking about in context of T150 flasks, those bigger flasks, where when I was bioprinting in my PhD lab, we had like 12 of those, and we like had to like try to
just to make a
extract
small
them,
square,
right?
square
Exactly.
graft that's not even functional. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Well, just to get a like a syringe, like a 50 cc syringe filled with like million stem cells per mil.
No, yeah,
Like,
that's pretty sparse.
Right. It took like 12 of those flasks, large flasks, to like even get to that point. And we're talking about thousands of dollars just to grow that number of cells. And it's just...
Well, what is it? Like one vial of these stem cells is about like $800.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have to buy the media, you have to buy the number of flasks, you have to change the media every 2 to 3 days in each of those bottles. We're talking like...
easily $2,000-$3,000 just to get to that point.
That's right, just to scale and change the media on these cells, just to have enough cells to run one print.
Yeah.
For a functional tissue that may or may not form what you want.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, I think this topic of the economics of scaling up to this is a topic for another day, because there's so much that goes into it.
It really becomes more of a logistics operation at this point for translating these large functional tissues rather than the understanding of these stem cells. Because I think more or less the rule book is there with our ability to know how to move stem cells, understanding the potency, getting them to the right phenotype. So I think the rules are there, but it's just how do we get this to scale such that it's economical and consistent and reproducible for our patients. And like, you know, we sort of talk about the generations of tissue engineering advancement. We sort of passed that first generation of tissue engineering knowledge acquisition. So we know how stem cells work. We know how to change stem cells to the right fate. But now it's like getting tissue engineering to its dream, which is translating this to patients, which isn't so much a scientific venture. It's more about how do we make things scalable, reproducible, predictable, so that these biologics can be accessible to patients and easily used by physicians. That's why CBER exists, the Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research at the FDA. And I would probably say one of the more difficult divisions to get products in the market through, because of the fact that biologics are really... I mean, we know a lot about biologics, but we also know that we don't know biologics. And by that, I mean, we know what we don't know, in the sense that we know that we are very firm in the conclusion that stem cells are unpredictable. That's like a very firm conclusion. So we're now given this firm conclusion that stem cells have all of these different confounding variables that affect their fate, not just from the derivation of their different patients, sex and all this stuff, but also once we have it in the lab, the way they behave and the way that product is sort of treated is dynamic. It's not a small molecule that has this predictable structure and shelf life. As we grow stem cells throughout time, their phenotype and potency changes as we manufacture them in the lab. And we can't necessarily assess this dynamic change of stem cells in the lab within a patient, because we're obviously trying to manufacture this to scale. We're not seeing how these stem cells are affected longitudinally in the patient from the first vial, because we have to get them to a mass that can be accessible. So we're kind of in a catch-22 in that way too. And it's a good thing you mentioned the FDA part. I guess this will be our last point, because we're like going for a long time. But you know, I think the FDA has not approved a product where we take our own stem cells, we grow it in a lab and put it back. That still hasn't cleared regulatory processes. There is one product that I do know that's done that. The company's name is Vericel, and they do have cartilage grafts. I think it's called Macy. I'll have to look it up. But Vericel does have a product that does that for cartilage healing, as a matter of fact. And it's like one product, I believe it was approved. It was approved a little while back, maybe like 10, 20 years. I might put a link in the video when I find that, but that's the only product that I do know that has sort of, you know, what you've mentioned, which is basically an autograft put on a patch, put back in the body. But beside that, there's a very, very limited number of products out there.
So there's a graft, but not the stem cells itself.
Well, the stem cells come from the patient
from it.
themselves,
Okay.
grown on a graft, and then put back on the patient.
Interesting.
And like I said, I'll find that and put that in the link in this video.
Okay. I guess I remember talking to an FDA guy, and then he was basically saying it's just a nightmare to get it through.
Well, I mean, it's whether it works well or not depends on the patient itself too.
Right.
I mean, there's severe osteoarthritic patients that have very low stem cell potency, so the autograft is barely going to work.
Absolutely.
So this stuff isn't like en masse scale. Like most of this is like catering to specific patients and extremely premium procedures you have to perform. So it's not to the point where we can say these products are accessible to the larger mass of people that are affected by these diseases just yet.
Yeah. So still decades away from this being an actual viable product.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's still for the premium users.
Yeah. So as of right now, interesting source for stem cells, but it's not the panacea for everything. So don't believe everything on LinkedIn or social media.
Yep.
We're trying to debunk all this. So
Well, see everything with the nuanced lens.
Yeah.
Because all this stuff can and can't work for specific applications. So looking at these things with a critical eye is very important. So sensationalized headlines don't make you assume that we have a solution for everyone in this field of biologics, namely stem cells for regeneration.
Critically think.
Absolutely.
That's what we're trying to do to help you guys understand. So, but yeah, I think that's it for today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I concur. Ditto.
It's been Dr. Rob.
And Bioman.
See you guys next time.
Alrighty.